To call this meeting to order, and Andrew Mooney will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Presswood,
Here.
Director Holt,
Here.
Director Lang,
Here.
Director Hucker,
Yes.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
All right, and with that, we would like to have a very special presentation, something very dear to my heart. So we're going to hear about the Caneo Valley Botanic Garden from Beverly.
And as you're setting up, Beverly, I thought I might mention that for you and the board, this is the very first and inaugural opportunity for everyone to see our brand new clock. So I don't know if the chair can peek at it, I can't, but so it's, so Nellie can't see it from there, so you gotta be a little taller, but
Oh, okay, so that didn't help me either.
no, so yeah, so we may have to slide it over so the chair can see it, but
The speaker.
Time of
Yeah.
the speakers? Oh,
so as a general rule, 15 minutes for a special presentation max. Hmm? Big and bright. Thanks so much.
Is it mic on?
Just a second, is the microphone working?
What do you call?
There we go.
We have a 50-year, what is that called? When we rent the property? Lease up, and do you know that? Anyway, I'm just reminding you, I'm not going to talk about it. That's coming up next year. Well, we are all volunteers at the garden and one part-time paid gardener. And we're just grateful for the support that we receive from you people, because it enables us to keep that garden in top notch and keep it going and everything like that. So we're real grateful to all of you for what you do for us. The brick pavers on the right were used in the main garden entrance. And they're the kind that allow rain to go through between every brick. There's a space between every brick. Imagine what a job that was. And so the water flows through them when it rains. And plus, I think they look really great too. They built a 50-foot trench around the property. And I came to see this, to take these pictures, and I saw those guys digging by hand, and I thought, wow, isn't that something? 50 feet from the old entrance in our botanic garden all the way over to the nursery. Well, I walked a little further and there was a big truck and a motorized digger, so they weren't doing it all by hand, but it was still quite a big job. And those trenches go, like I said, from one part of the property to another, and it allows us to plant more trees and plants up above. These are the plants that are already growing in that area, the Matilaha poppies. And of course, they're beautiful, and a lot of people can't grow them, so they like to come and see ours at the Botanic Garden. But there'll be other plants along there too, but that will be one of the main ones. And we put a few water spouts, extra tubes or whatever, in the trail of trees. We have planted 72 trees there about in 2005, I guess it was. And so they're doing well. This is an older picture. They're really quite a bit bigger than that. And almost all of them are dedicated to some person. Another thing on one of our that we got from you are handrails. And we haven't done these yet, but they're going to happen, I hope, in the next week or so, or month rather. So they'll each get a row of handrails on one side of the two lower steps And then the kind of goofy one up in the top right doesn't have a stairs, but it has a very, what I call kind of a steep step to take. And so we'll have a handrail sort of where that line is, only it's not exactly there. So I think that will help. If we do those three, that leads us from our new entrance all the way to our main entrance, and they can walk all through the garden without going up steps if they know how to do it, because you can do that too. And of course, we have people that bring crutches and different things that they need more straight underneath them. And this is one of our newer plants about, well, several years, but it keeps growing every year. And it's the Chilean garden. Now we have 5 of the Mediterranean climate gardens. That's the 5th one. And that plant that you see that goes all around the square is a calendrinia. And on the right, it shows the pretty long tasseled flowers that are on there when it blooms. Okay, now I'd like to take you into the kids' garden, which is one of our popular things that we have in the garden. And this bronze plaque is dedicated to Marianne Lucas, who, let's see, about 21 years ago, saw that spot where you were storing your sand and gravel and thought that would be a kids' adventure garden. So with that, she went out, and in the top left corner, there's an old mobile home, and somebody gave that to her. And you can see where that is. That's where the garden, that's where the kids' garden is now. And the forward part of it is the parking lot, if you can make your judgment of where that is. So from that, you see the 2 bottom ones are what she did. We eventually got the beautiful gate. And on the other one is a view from the street. And of course, that tree house is about as popular as you can imagine with the children. And that was one of the things that we had worked on for a whole week with a bunch of guys this last couple of months ago, because a lot of the wood in the supports had rotted after 20 years and it was not quite safe, people thought. So we went ahead and hired people to do that, and they did a terrific job. So that's what you can come and see when you come to the kids' garden. We have, and all this is almost 100% purchased by Marianne Lucas. So you can understand, I want you to understand why we're so favorable to her. And she's no longer with us, unfortunately, but we have 2 dinosaur in plants. What do we call it? I can't think of that now.
Topiary.
Oh, topiaries. And then she has the metal giraffe and the smaller giraffe. There's an envelope, other things. The little girl at the bottom in the gray thing, that's a pirate's cage. They can go in there. It's a pirate's cage. So different things that kids can do. And there's a lot of beauty with the greenery that's been growing all these years. And a lot of the plants, not all, but a lot of them are labeled too. Now that's one of my favorite kind of people that I like to see there. I can hardly get away from grabbing them, but I don't do that. And then of course we have, let's see, what is it called? Curious George in that band around the tube there. And they come up and go up and take it off and hug it and kiss it. But they never miss it, those little like 1.5-year-olds or whatever they are. So, you know, it's worth it just to go there to see this, I think. This pond habitat was just made and put in I would say 5 or 6 months ago. So it's brand new. And the person who's in charge of it is really particular. He doesn't want anybody to touch the water because he's making it a certain degree of whatever the degree is. I don't understand it. I don't go for that, but I mean, I go for it, but I don't know it. But we don't want him to stand on the bricks and so forth. We don't want him to dip the little cups into the water. So, but it's a very interesting thing for all people, adults and kids both. They love to look at that. So you might wonder who does all the work there. Well, these are some of the people that do that. And it happens that everybody on this view here are master gardeners. You probably all know what that is. But two of these and two others made a new salvia garden. They designed it with the help of one of our volunteers, and they built it, and it's really very pretty. So they worked hard. And then two of the ones that were in that offer stuck, and they work in the garden. So all the people, like I say, except the little guy in the green, I couldn't figure that. I thought for a long time, I felt really sorry for him because of his legs. And then I put it on the computer and enlarged it, and I thought, oh, those are flower pots on his leg. Did you see them in the green? Maybe you can't see it from here. Anyway, something extra. And what they do, they can work standing up and sweeping off the trash for the path, or they can take barrels of the ones that don't want any nor the weeds, they can haul it away. And they can get right down on their knees. So they're very flexible about doing the work, and they can do just about anything. And I must say, we have wonderful people. And, we've got like a retired doctor and a retired nurse, and all the people that really enjoy what we're doing and take a real interest in it. You get to see that twice because it got mixed up. But I think maybe you should see it twice because that's a lot of work to sweep all those paths. Every year we have a party. This year in 21, we had to have it out by the nursery because we couldn't have a party or anything special because of the problems that we were having. So there are the two that received it this year. Both probably have volunteered there possibly 12 to 15 years, come maybe almost once a week. Now, again, we're happy for you for the open house grant. And one of the things that was done, this green that you see on the left, is a map that I mentioned the 50 years ago about Mary Ann Lucas with the kids garden. And I don't know that she made that map. I think she did, but it was lost and we found it. And so it was reinvented by different parts of it, so it was quite a job. I didn't work on it, but they say it was quite a lot of work to make those changes. But anyway, they did, and it happened. So our open house then will be on October 23rd, 11 to 3 p.m. And this is the bulletin that has been made to show people where we are and when we are. And if you go look for the flags, we have those in our storage lock, so we can show you where the entrances are, which aren't exactly these, but the flags are. And now I'm going to take you to the top of the hill, from which you can see almost 360 degrees around if you walk around a little bit. It's a beautiful hill, beautiful flowers. We have one of the volunteers, in fact, he's one of the master gardener that have done a lot of improvement there. So the cactus garden is really quite lovely. So that's what I want to show you about the garden. And I thank you for inviting me, and I hope you come and see the garden and enjoy it as much as we do. Thank you.
So we'd like to have some comments. Who would like to start us off? Director Lang.
Thank you, Chair Nichols and Nichols. Chair Cuthbert was looking down at Doug, and a great presentation. And some people know that I was acquaintance friend of Ray Garcia, who was one of the individuals who started the Botanic Garden years ago. And he would just be amazed at what has been accomplished in the community and all of the volunteers that are now part of it. They really struggled at the beginning, but this is really a great tribute.
Thank you. We invited him to one of our parties, maybe 8 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was.
Yeah.
And he came all dressed up with his wife, and we just enjoyed so much having him there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
is a great one. Thank you.
Oh, but we're not done. We all want to say something. You're gonna do what? Oh, I don't think you're on the clock anymore. I think we
Oh.
can take another few minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We can always turn it back.
So Director Huffer.
I just want to thank you for your presentation. I am embarrassed to admit that I haven't been to the Botanic Gardens in years and years. When my children were little, went up there fairly regularly, planted a tree up there a long, long time ago. Those little children are now 38 and 41, so
Mhm.
it's, I have been back there once or twice, but I'm definitely going to take advantage of your open house, because what you've shown us here is just totally different from what I remember the Botanic
Thank you.
Gardens.
Yeah, please do. Please come.
And I have 3 grandchildren, fortunately live fairly far away, but next time they visit, we're definitely going to take them to the,
Mhm.
to the kids portion of the Botanic Garden.
Okay,
Looks
thank you.
fascinating. So you said that of course we know what a master gardener is. I don't have a clue.
Oh, well, I'm not a master gardener. It's an organization that's planned by the state, I guess, and they have a building. I haven't been there up in Ventura. And that quite a few people go there and they train people how to know one plant from another and about the soil and everything you can think about gardening. It's a wonderful program.
Huh, interesting. Well, anyway, thank you very much for the presentation.
Sure,
And I
thank you. You're
definitely
welcome.
will be back there.
I'll look for you.
And Director Holt.
Well, the garden is a wonderful place. I wonder if you could tell me, it's usually open, right? You don't, I mean, we've
The
got.
garden is open sunrise to sunset.
Right, and you can
except
Go
for-
in from the park too.
Yes.
correct?
Actually, we have 3 entrances now, but it's open a lot, and so, but except for 4th of July and when it rains. And when it rains, it might be closed for 3 or 4 days. We have to get the walking places dry so we don't
Ah,
get mud all over everything.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
So that's kind of about it. So it's open a lot. The kids' garden is only open 4 hours a week, and that's on Sunday. And there's reasons for that. One of them being that we have to have
Staff,
people there
yeah,
because we've got the tree house and other things. So somebody has to be there. So,
well,
And-
thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. I've loved the place.
yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And Director Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Beverly, thank you for the presentation. It was nice to chat with you a little bit earlier. I just was wondering, other than just being open, what happens at the open house? Anything particular? Or is it just welcoming people in?
Yeah, there is nothing particular. No, it's to bring you in to see what we have and how you can grow plants, California plants that will stay and live without quite so much rain, maybe that type of thing. But no, we aren't, it's not, it's, you suit yourself and walk at your own pace and see what you want to see. The kids' garden will be open too. It's kind of a separate unit, but
Mhm.
it's all hooked together.
Very good. Well, yeah, it's been about a year since I've been up there. I'm anxious to get up and take another look, but thank you
Okay.
again for the presentation.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me interrupting, I think Beverly, aren't you guys gonna have some snacks there at the open house also? And some snacks and water cart and some stuff that you've done with the dollars?
Yes, there is a water cart, and I believe water. And I'm not sure what else. I've been real involved, but yet not very involved in it, so. Okay,
So I go to the Adventure Garden quite a bit. When she gave the last presentation, I decided to volunteer as if I don't volunteer enough, but I'm there in the Adventure Garden selling plants. And so my grandkids come to visit me. And my son went there and I wasn't there, but he talked about with his son, my grandson. And he talked about how wonderful it is. And I just want to say that Beverly is there every Sunday, making
Well-
sure that all the volunteers come. She comes at noon to make sure that everything is running. So she's still very dedicated to that Adventure Garden to make sure that everything is going well.
right.
And it is really fabulous to see these families with their young children coming in and the joy that the children are getting from the plants. And they oftentimes will go home with a plant and there's just such enthusiasm. And I know that I remember when we moved here, it was pretty much a hill of dirt, and it's been all of those volunteers. This is one of the things that is very dear to my heart, is our community partners and all of the people that come together to volunteer to make our community such a good place. And it's people like Beverly that is a leader and brings them in. I think a leader by default right now, you're ready to pass on the torch sometimes, but she's such a good leader and she's led these people, and it's really a tribute to Beverly, this Botanic
you.
Garden. So
Well, I've
thank you
enjoyed
very
it a
much.
great deal. And speaking of that, thank you for you can come in to me and get a job to work there or volunteer. If you will spend 2 hours once a month, you count, because I have a lot of people and we break it down to small units, so nobody's there a lot of the time. So thank you.
Well, one reason I ended up in the Adventure Garden is because I'm really not a master gardener. I don't think there was anything else I can do.
But she's good at selling plants. We have a plant sale up there too on these Sundays when we're there.
And Harvey comes and paints sometimes and sketches. So it's a delightful, wonderful place just to come and sit. I mean, it's really a lovely garden, and it's a tribute to our community that we have it. So thank you. And I encourage everybody to go. Of course, it's on the 23rd when I won't be here again. I have.
Well, it turns out
I
I'm
know,
not
but
going
I'm
to be
just
here
saying,
either.
all of
So,
these events are happening on the 23rd. I'm going to miss the water cart and
yeah. Okay.
so,
Well,
anyway,
they'll
thank you.
do a good job. I have to miss it too. So
oh,
I'm
okay.
with you.
That
Okay.
makes me feel a little better. All right, we have some speaker cards here. So we'd like to have Kara Nerman come up here. Carol, I'm sorry. And I think our clock is on. Is that on for 3 minutes? 3 minutes. Yes, because we're going to be zooming out of here at 6:30 and then coming back, and I don't want anyone to wait. So thank you, Carol.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I haven't been here for a while. I came here a number of years ago as president of the Las Flores Community Garden when we were doing the memorandum of understanding renewal. But tonight I would like to talk to you about what's going on with Caneo's Senior Volunteer Program. I joined the Caneo Senior Volunteer Program on my birthday, my 55th birthday, and I've been doing it for over 10 years. So the very first day, I went to the knitting group and immediately had difficulties with that group. They have these rules on where you sit and what you can do and that sort of thing. And it just, I was concerned about that, but I'm not one to back down. So I just kept going. And, but I do want to let you know that I'm a top volunteer. I probably have, I mean, at least 8,000, 9,000 hours over the decade, and probably own somebody's been to the boutique and bought stuff for you. You probably own something that I knitted. And, you know, I'm an expert knitter and teacher and that sort of stuff. So I'm not just like kind of this random Karen. I mean, I don't think I'm a random Karen coming and just talking about this. So, but the executive summary of this presentation tonight is that Caneo Senior Volunteer Program, and especially the workshop that I'm in, the Busy Bees workshop, is just a place where there's a lot of bullying and mobbing. And this has been going on since the very first day that I did this. And I just didn't feel that it was being dealt with enough. So I was actually leader of the group for a while, and someone forced my hand and we really had to deal with stuff. So we went to Andrea, who spoke to people to try to change the behavior a little bit. And there was a woman that was taking some of the yarn for her own personal use, and people were just not, they were sitting there enjoying the coffee, the free coffee and donuts, and they weren't doing any work for volunteer work, and they were taking the seats of the actual volunteers. And so we really had to do something. And you know, I mean, it wasn't Andrea's fault, but it didn't go over very well because people didn't want to make those changes. But, and then then Rick Chinako joined the organization and he was supportive for a little while and then he sort of tired. He fixed some things, but he never fixed the part about the yarn. And what happened is that after this person, she didn't want to deal with it, with being told that she couldn't take yarn. So she started this misinformation campaign about me and just disparaging my work and everything that I did there and just lying about and spreading it through the other craft groups and the other things there. And the same with, Rick, it's just like at the point where he was really, I felt like the CSVP I was fixing the things that should have been fixed for years and they just left me twisting in the wind. So same with Julie Spivak. She was originally very supportive and she just sort of, after a while, I don't know if they get tired of it or if they start believing the other person. Somebody told me a similar situation. You don't have bullies. You're being mobbed. So it's a concerted effort over a decade now by a group of people who are just, doing a lot of misinformation. And I just don't see the senior center dealing with that effectively. And just this week it got worse. And I apologize right now to Patty Ham because she and I had an agreement that she and I were going to deal with this and bypass a lot of the other people who were being most difficult. And she's not here this week. And somebody reminded me that she wasn't here this week and just made it, I think, difficult for me so much that I decided I could not wait for the meeting scheduled next week. And I could not wait for the next board meeting, that I really needed to bring it up now. So anyway, I'm out of time. I don't know what you want to do with this,
Well,
but
Thank you very much for your comments and we will talk to people that are in charge and bring your comments to them and hopefully there can be some reconciliation. I'm very sorry that this has been going on and that you have been harmed.
well,
So-
I am too. And I just think that, I think this can be fixed. And one of the reasons I hadn't brought it up before is that there are a lot of really nice people there who are doing really good work in the community and some really good employees in the past that have been very supportive and helpful and they've tried to fix things. But it's just like it's a lot of stuff to put on one individual contributor or volunteer. I mean, I really don't have any power and I don't really think that I should be treated this way. After all, all the work I've done for you guys. So,
We will be looking into it and somebody will be getting back to you.
okay,
So thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Appreciate it. And Elaine Hagan.
Hello, yes, hi, Elaine Hagan, representing the Conejo Open Space Foundation. This past weekend, the foundation hosted an event at Conejo Creek North called the Native Plant Palooza and Eco Fest. 25 exhibitors, including the National Park Service, City of TO Sustainability Division, National Wildlife Federation, Athens Services, and many more, offered a wide range of information about native plant gardening, water conservation, ways to control pests without using poison, recycling and composting, and much more. 4 half-hour presentations focused on biodiversity in the garden, native plant gardening, healing properties of native plants, and backyard beekeeping. So it was a busy day. A lot of exciting stuff going on. And the event coincided with California Clean Air Day, which is sponsored by the Coalition for Clean Air. And we were fortunate to receive grants from the coalition and also from Comerica Bank, and that helped us pay for the event. And we were supported by CRPD in several very important ways. First, the rental fee was waived, which was a big help to us. Secondly, the grounds crew were terrific. They were so helpful and so accommodating. It was really, really nice. And third, the outdoor unit hosted a booth with eco-minded craft projects for children, some of which included they would paint and then include grass and other vegetation as part of their art project, which was really cute. Anyway, the response was really positive, and exhibitors and attendees both told us that they were very pleased. Many of them told us they were very pleased with the results. And by the end of the day, we had made the decision to repeat the event next year. So I just want to say thank you. Our ongoing partnership with CRPD is very important to the Conejo Open Space Foundation, and we truly greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine, and we truly greatly appreciate you. So
Thank you.
thank you for coming to report on that event. It was an
Okay.
excellent event.
Thank you.
And Graham Watts.
Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Graham Watts. I live in Newbury Park, California, and I come today to present with you some information about something that affects all of us every day. What are one of the top causes of death in California and the United States? You might think of cancer, guns, or auto accidents, but actually mental illness is at the top of the list, with one suicide occurring every 11 minutes nationwide. That's every 11 minutes. For people 10 to 34 years old, suicide is the leading cause of death. The good news is that the federal government, in a rare demonstration of leadership and bipartisan support, has updated its suicide prevention lifeline from the out-of-date 10-digit phone number to a 3-digit 988 suicide and crisis lifeline that can now receive calls. It can take texts and emails. The program is supported by over 200 crisis centers nationwide. According to the Mental Health Services Administration, the number of nationwide inquiries has increased by 45%. That's about 152,000 people calling and asking for help from August 2020 to August 2021. Even more impressive is the response time has increased and gone down from 2.5 minutes to 42 seconds. Unfortunately, the updated 3-digit 988 suicide lifeline was too late for my sister Samantha, who in April, after years of depression, COVID challenges, and many other issues, took her own life. Not a day goes by that I don't think of her. And what I could have done to stop her. So her brother's love and support was not enough. She needed professional help and she never got it. I'm here today asking for your attention to draw attention to people around you. I'm asking people that you may know that are watching or listening that may be struggling, that may be quiet, that may not be themselves, that may need a shoulder to cry on. Please check into them. Just listen to them. Do what you can to help them. And then if you can't help them, guide them to where they can be helped. I also ask that your board and your director take a more visible role in highlighting the dangers of suicide and to promote the national 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This could be done by adding a link or 3-digit number on the front page of your Park District website or on social media outlets used by the Park District. All it takes is a small link or logo in your electronic newsletters. I also ask, if possible, the chair to share this direction with sister agencies and businesses that you work with throughout the community. I thank you all for your attention today and ask that you please look into 988lifeline.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and sharing your suggestions. It was very thoughtfully done. I appreciate it. We're now going to adjourn this meeting. It will be, we're going to go into a closed session and then we will
So yeah, let me make that announcement.
Do we need our, we don't.
So, yeah,
Approval. We'd like to have an approval of the agenda. Can
So
anyone
approved.
give- Thank you.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
It carries. Consent calendar, A and B. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I just
Okay.
have, I don't
Okay,
know if it was pointed out, but I did notice in the minutes from the prior meeting, item 3, that there are several references to the summer of 2002. And it's actually the summer of 2022. So,
Duly noted.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for noticing that. So that will be taken care of. Are there any other questions? We have a motion. I think that was Director Lang. Is that correct, Director Lang? Did you make a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Director Nichols. All approved?
I'm,
Aye.
Aye, or all in favor? I keep saying all approved. Do we have any deferred matters to talk with at this time?
Nope.
No? Items for discussion. We're gonna talk about the warrant register and the district reporting of purchases, which we brought up at our last meeting. Are you gonna take this discussion, Mr. Friedel?
I'm just gonna very briefly remind you that at the last meeting that there were some questions about how we do the warrant registry, and Doug, being the curious board member he is like, well, why? Because that's, well, why is it like that? So we actually had to go back and try to answer, other than because that's how we've always done it. So it was actually a nice exercise to kind of look into what the underpinnings are for what it is we provide to you through our payment and warrant register systems, and why we do that. So Melissa's done, I think, a really fine job. It's actually, I learned a lot, and I really appreciate all of her hard work, and she's going to share that with us tonight. And she's even done a little PowerPoint to go with her talk. So
Ooh. That was really why I brought this up, was so that Ms. Smith could really get a foothold on her role here with the district.
I appreciate that. Well, yeah, and thank you for bringing it up. And I'll wait for Steph to bring up the presentation for you all. I'll try to click through it from here too. But the memo in your packet, I know, is very, very dense and very, very dry. So hopefully the presentation with happy photos will make it a little more absorbable. And that's my intent. So I'll get going on that. So briefly, this is kind of how I broke it down. I'll go over kind of our current policy and procedures. Next, what your oversight requirements are, and then some examples before we open it up to you all for discussion. So first is our purchasing policy. You all are pretty familiar with this. This gets updated and changed as needed, and we come to you for approval for that. Last time was in May of 2021. There are different rules for different circumstances, but in general, the threshold is by dollar amount, 1,000, 5,000, 60,000, and beyond that requires your approval. So supervisors, admins, general manager, board approval. Those are the layers of the policy for purchasing. So how does that work in practice? This is kind of the day in the life of an invoice slide. So from left to right, what happens is, your boss says, hey, you go buy a widget. You come back and say, here's the invoice. Your supervisor checks it and says, is it okay with the budget? And they approve it. If it hits one of those thresholds, the 1,000, 5,000, or 60,000, they might need additional approval. Then you get into the process payment section of it. And this is the mysterious stuff that happens once you give it to the finance department, right? It's all unknown and very mystical. But it's also not anything that's in a policy or procedure. So I attached to your memo a cash distribution narrative. And that's literally all the different steps that staff take to get it into the system, to double check tax information, to make sure the numbers are right. They're double checking each other. And it's actually 5 points of control where we're double checking everything. And we're also confirming that it's all in accordance with that purchasing policy. So that's that whole process. And if you want to look at the cash disbursement narrative, it's attached to the memo. It's also provided to the auditors every year. and they do spot checks and test that those financial controls are happening. So that's the kind of mysteries of finance.
And
Uh,
that cash disbursement is on page 60 and 61 of your packet, the narrative on kind of what happens.
Yeah, and it's not a policy or even a procedure. It's literally just a narrative of who does what. And then finally, we have reviews. So that was my best word I could come up with, the fact that we check over and over and over again for things. So every 2 weeks, we not only bring you that, the warrants for your approval, but we also have, I'm gonna mess up the phrase. It's the audit of the vendors and the audit of the payroll that I run through the system every other week. And that identifies any changes to addresses, any new employees, any new vendors, anything that might change. And I see the employee who changed it in the system. And so I'll flag anything that looks unusual. Sometimes it happens, like, I'll give an example of, I'll see that Jessie changed a bunch of vendors for Caneo, but she primarily does payroll for MRCA. So I go to Jessie and say, hey, why are you doing that? And it's usually I'm covering for Michelle because she's out or something like that. Another example would be 2 employees suddenly changed to the same address, which has happened. It actually happened at MRCA not that long ago. And that was actually 2 seasonals we hired on the fire division decided to get an apartment together. That's it. But those are the types of things I'm looking for in that bi-weekly check. Then we have the monthly reports. And so that's more the budget reports that you get where we're comparing actuals to the budget. And we're also balancing everything to the monthly statements from our bank. So just like you, we get a bank statement every month and we're making sure that our checks are tying to that. And finally, we have the annual financial statement and audit process. And they're checking all of those other steps in there and then reporting to you, and we're bringing all that to you. So that's the whole payment timeline life of an invoice. So any questions on that before I move on?
Just a technical question on
Sure.
on all these steps. I'll just pick, for example, let's say something happened that requires a $5,000 approval threshold.
Mhm.
Does the data system trigger that where it says, you can't buy this because you don't have to do this you can't do this without someone else's approval? Is there like some automation involved where these are like automatically set up, or is someone carrying this around the office? Oh, I need to go to this person next, this person next. How does that actually happen?
So it's typically the carrying around the office because we won't put it in the system until we have all those approvals in place. So it never even gets put in until we've had multiple people check that policy is underway. The difference would be for CalCards, which is an excellent segue to my next slide, if
Yeah.
that was the end of your question.
It was gonna be next, but go ahead.
Okay. So for CalCards, there are lots of benefits to the CalCards, namely convenience is the biggest one. But we do have some controls in place where we'll have single purchase limits. I think most of our CalCards have a $500 purchase limit, so it doesn't even touch those thresholds. And then there is a monthly purchase limit, and those vary based on employees. Most of them are on the lower end. But supervisors can request higher ones if we know that they routinely get something that's pretty expensive. I'll give an example of Julie buying food for senior nutrition. And that's usually a higher one. So we know that and we expect that on her CalCard. Also, the CalCard is set up to prevent the ability to split transactions. So if you try to like split your $1,000 thing into 2 $500 payments, the card won't let you. It won't do that. And then if you're in a different location or something that seems weird, it'll flag it for us and we'll contact the staff, or it'll freeze it and you'll have to call us to unlock your card. So there are different types of controls like that. So they wouldn't even be able to charge.
Thank you.
I'm like, what else did I want to talk about CalCards? The other things are, so because the actual purchase happens before that purchasing policy can really be checked, like you were saying, if someone were to purchase something and say their boss said, hey, oh my gosh, I had no idea that widget would be so expensive. Well, you can return it and we'll document it. And then we expect the refund on the next statement. And we actually track that to make sure the refund happens. If it's something that can't be returned for some reason, we go into counseling with the employee to make sure that they know they can't use the CalCard that way. We can also reduce limits for the future or take the CalCard away if they're not fulfilling those requirements to get that approval beforehand. Most cases when it's not an approved use, it's because people accidentally use it. They're using it on Amazon and then they purchased something personal and forgot to change the payment method. and they write us a check most of the time. We've had, I think, 2 in the now 15 years between MRC and CRPD where we've seen a trend that an employee is doing that. And we usually reach out to see if they're having some sort of financial difficulty, but usually it's not a problem. So that's in brief, the Cal cards. So back to your little timeline. How does that change? It's just the very first 2 steps. But once you get your statement for your Cal card, you have to give us a receipt, the description of what you got, and then you have to go through those exact same processes and procedures before that gets put in our system at all. So that's the whole Cal card summary. So before I go further and talk about where the board fits into this, any questions? No? Okay. So board oversight, and here's some more pictures because I know it's dry. So your toolkit options are you have budget approval, purchasing policy, budget monitoring, warrant approval, and the financial statements. So what's required and what's best practices? Budget approval and the financial statements are what is required. The rest are just the best practices that we've implemented for various reasons. And so I was just going to break it down by starting with the required things. So the first one is the budget approval. Budget approval, it's determined by Public Resources Code. It identifies the dates that we're required to approve the preliminary and final budgets, and also the instructions for public hearings and notification requirements. And then again, if we go back to that timeline, real quick, there we go. So that's where that budget approval process gets checked, is that's at the transaction level before it gets approved. We're making sure that it was included in the budget to be paid on. And that's again, before it even gets put into our financial system. Next, we have the financial statements, which I know you're all very familiar with those lovely documents. It's also required in the Public Resources Code. They actually give some flexibility where you're just required to have regular audits. Some entities do biannually. Usually for smaller boards that don't meet as frequently or something like that. But this is the key component to preserve the board's oversight powers. And again, if you go back to this timeline, so you've got the budget approval at the beginning, and then you've got the financial statements at the end. So your 2 required things become your minimum oversight that's the minimum legal oversight that you're required to provide. So where did we get our best practices? And why, and what do they look like, right? So first, purchasing policy, we already talked about it tonight, so I'll zip through it. It's that matrix that you're approving when we have changes. Where does that get included in this? You've got budget approval in the first part, and then you've got the purchasing policy, which is primarily where those approvals take place. Next, you've got budget monitoring, and I really looked for a CRPD picture of meat and potatoes because it is the meat and potatoes of your toolkit for financial oversight. But I found corned beef and cabbage, so that's what you got. It's the corned beef and cabbage for us. But that's like what you have in your packet today. It's the comparison of your adopted budget to actuals. This goes along with the monthly review that we do internally, and that's where we come up with those comments for you on the right, where if there's something a little different or maybe something's over or under budget, we try to put an explanation in there. So when we go back to this lovely timeline that you're going to be sick of by the end of tonight, you've got the budget approval, and then the purchasing policy, and then you've got budget monitoring over at the end. And then your last one is the warrant approval, which was the topic that brought us here. And so this is actually based on the government code that's required for cities to get approvals of their payment register. It's not actually a requirement for the park districts, but we've adopted it as best practices. Ours used to include just the vendor and the amount. In February of 2020, we changed our system a little bit to add some more information so you knew what you were approving. And the Cal cards are listed as the lump sum for the statement, and we have 4 statements every month. And so that process, again, back to the timeline, because I'm just going to hammer it into you all your little oversight points. Okay. That one just likes doing that. Budget monitoring, and then you've got warrant approval. So to sum it all up, those are your tools for financial oversight, including your required and the best practices. And then really quick, I'll go through all these so you can see all the parts of the payment timeline that you're getting info on. Warrant approval, and then the financial statements. And just as a reminder, the financial statements do actually test all of the other points in the timeline, but I didn't want to cover the whole thing with purple arrows. So with that, I'll stop before I give any examples of how our sister and partner entities do it, if you have any questions. Sure.
The warrant approval, you said that's the best, you adopted that as a best practice, but it's required of cities.
So they're required to have approval of all of their payment registers, but they are provided a ton of flexibility where they can develop a completely alternate method of doing it. And actually, two of the examples, I'll show you two ways that they do it. But we match what the other park districts do, but it's really a requirement that's only for cities.
Okay, I'm just trying to picture the city of Thousand Oaks. Every 2 weeks or every city council meeting, they must have a stack that high.
I will show you what they do because they are one of my examples.
Okay, so the warrants, which was the whole issue that Doug brought up, is the best practice, but there are ways to accomplish that without giving us 20 or 30 or 40 pages of.
Yes, and this is actually 2 weeks of the documentation for checks and CalCard for CRPDs. This is 2 weeks. That's why it's here to show you.
Killed a lot of trees. Thank you.
But you don't know.
Oh, these are all hard copies of the invoices and the CalCard statements. This is the, yeah, they're all there. Anything?
I'll wait to hear the rest of the story.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So we'll go to the examples. First, we'll start with the park districts. So Rancho Simi, they have an item on consent for their board. They have this check register. It looks very similar to ours. They've got the vendor description and the account and the amount, and then they have their CalCard listed as just one lump sum. Pleasant Valley is a little different. It's also on consent, but they have it all broken down by department. So it'll have all the checks listed by department and then the CalCard for each department listed separately. So between the two park districts, we're kind of a combination. We list all of our checks, but not by department, but our CalCard statements are kind of by department and they're broken into 4 for every month. So we're kind of in between Rancho and Pleasant Valley. So the city, they've completely developed their new alternate method, which is allowable in their government code. And so what they have is one board member reviews these weekly. I think it's weekly, it might be bi-weekly, but they also have all of it is available on their website for anyone to look at for the whole week. And it includes their entire check run that looks like that and every single line of their CalCard. And that includes the vendor, the description, the place it was coded to, like their accounting and the amount. And so that's Thousand Oaks method. And then the other city example I gave is actually City of Santa Clarita, which I picked because they actually cite the government code in their register certification, and they've picked a completely different method as well. They still have it on consent, whereas Thousand Oaks doesn't have it on their board agenda. But Santa Clarita has created a method where their city treasurer and their city manager are allowed to sign off that they've checked everything and none of the information is provided to the board. They've given that authority to the city manager and the city treasurer, and they're able to sign off that it's appropriate pursuant to that code. So those are kind of the examples that of the cities. So all that to say, here's the kind of summary of it, where everyone seems to handle check registers, CalCards differently. We're well above the minimum, but we're happy to accommodate whatever the board desires to see. And if you wanted to take a model from someone else, we can work on that too. And so this is where I'm happy to answer questions or let you guys chat about what you want for your review process, but we're well above the minimum requirement for your financial oversight.
Okay, is there any,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Just to refresh what brought this up is I was comparing, looking at an employee getting reimbursed for mileage that may have been 20-some dollars. Multiple times, multiple employees with lots of rather low dollar amounts. And then a CalCard for $347,000 combined with absolutely no explanation whatsoever. And my concern was, is that okay? I mean, is that acceptable, because if we're going to that level of detail in the non-cal card expenses, then why can we just wrap everything up in a package, put a bow on it and say, yeah, that was all charged? And we're just not showing it to you, not to be deceiving or anything, but just, it's just not there. And so that question was, well, if we're going to that detail, should we also have that exact same detail on all the cal card purchases? Or if we don't see the cal card, does that mean we don't need to see all the warrants? And the question was, which you explained, is what we are required to do, which is setting the budget at the beginning of the year, and then reviewing the audit at the end of the year, and make sure that what we said was okay to spend was actually spent the right way. Now, after 12 months goes by, it's hard to change something and say, well, that's not quite what we meant. You know, whoops, you know, that extra $1 million should have been spent that way. And so I understand there are some good best practices which have been implemented. And I think we have a wonderful policy for purchasing. I think we got some great thresholds for purchases, whether it be standard purchases or CalCard purchases. I think you've got a good system where you're checking things. We also have a finance committee, which is also a little more involved than just the board. So I think we have built in a lot of checkpoints, you know, and I'll defer to Director Huffer and some of those, Director Holt and some of those that have been more involved with this in the past. But I have a lot of confidence that what we have been doing is right. And so my question was, which you answered, was, is it okay just to see that CalCard expense and not have to worry about details? And the answer is yes. Now we can ask for it and it can be available. And maybe it's, you know, the board wants to do some other things on how to do that. When you're talking about the way things are done in other departments or other agencies, well, maybe we don't receive everything. Maybe we just have one department each time and it's at random. And you don't know what department is you're going to get, but that's the department of the month. You know, if we wanted to just kind of check if there was even a need to do so. And that would include the CalCards, because, you know, while I do take a lot of time to go through all the warrants, you know, if we miss a month and now we've got twice this amount, you know, or heaven forbid we miss 2 months, now we got 3 months to go through. I mean, it is a lot of review. And, you know, your eyes get a little foggy after a while. And as much as we want to spend time to go through it, time becomes a factor and our attention span becomes a factor. And so now are we really accomplishing what we should be in oversight? And I go back to what I said before, we do have a lot of checkpoints in place to kind of make sure that that was all done by 2 to 5 other people before we even got it. Nonetheless, our role here on the board is oversight. So we can't just ignore it. So whether we just, say the budget and the audit is all we need to do, or every 2 weeks we'll look at the warrant in its entirety, or somewhere in between. But again, to state what my concern was, which you answered. So thank you for doing that. And I'm just glad that I provided a little educational opportunity for the staff, but mostly for myself. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Do we have any other comments? Yes, please.
I
Director
just
Ryan.
think it was a good quote unquote exercise. You had to go through it and you presented it well. And I was thinking of the different photos you were using and what was behind that. But I think it was a timely topic. I personally, but some of you in the more financial arena and on the board might think another way can be, performed on CalCard charges, etc. I'm happy with the way things are, or I'll be happy to listen to other, reasoning to do it differently. So I just have confidence in the many years that I've been involved. I just have confidence in our system and arrangement, and with the 2 board members on the finance committee and so forth. So I'm first of all pleased with going through this and looking at what is involved, and then, I'm open.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Director Huffer?
Well, I guess I would, since you've been on the board for the longest time, George, do you look at the warrants just quickly or in detail, or?
Previously, I did it very much in detail. And in recent years, it's more looking for the big numbers and seeing what those expenses were. So, haven't in many years had any questions associated with the warrants and looking at the information we're given.
Okay, which I guess would tell me that, you spend minimal time on it, you spend some time on it, but minimal time, but you've never found any issues with it over 30 years. That, is there any real need, certainly having just the budget and the annual financial reports isn't sufficient. The monthly reports that you give us, I think are a good tool for, letting us know in general where expenses have gone and how they compare to the budget. But with the procedures that we have in place, whether it's for CalCard or for checks that are written, I think the procedures really are more than adequate. And my personal opinion is I don't see any real value to us spending the time with the warrants every 2 weeks.
Okay, so that would mean that you don't see a need to be putting the warrants into our packet.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I was going to suggest that maybe Doug take the role of the city person who's designated to go through every single check and every single CalCard transaction, but I won't do that, Doug.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I would feel very confident that the job would be well done.
I would try my best, and I would try to stay awake too.
I have to say that when I was first on the board, not that I've been here very long, I did appreciate looking through those just to get an idea of where the money was spent. And I used to call Tom every once, is this a yearly charge? He goes, no, that's monthly. And I'd be like, okay. And then I would think, yeah, I guess landscaping, does cost that much, or, the people that mow the lawns, So and here we put the fences there. It gave me an idea, and I would have to say sometimes it depends on my time, actually. I'll look through them very carefully. Sometimes I skim. I guess it is a bit of paper. I don't mind having them here. I kind of like to look through them myself, but I don't know that that's a topic for now. I think for now, I'm fine to just leave it the way we've been going. I've always felt that you've always been very good about alerting us to if something was going over budget, let's say a park or something was going over budget, and then they'd say, and we're getting the money from here because this was under budget, or we had the reserves over here, or we're taking it from this account, very much like a household account. You have something go wrong with the car, and then you go, well, we have the savings over here, or we didn't go on vacation. So, whatever it is. And I thought you've done an excellent job in doing that, as you described in the presentation, which was very well done. I'm highly impressed with the technical skills of CRPD and these amazing presentations you do to keep us all awake and happy. So thank you very much, Melissa, and thank you, Doug. I did find that very interesting. So seeing all of those checks points, I kind of feel that I knew them somewhat, but it was interesting to see them going out. Yes, Mr. Nichols.
Yes, I was going to, again, just make a suggestion, but before I do, ask a question. If I remember right, Ms. Smith, the data, while it's very extensive, you're saying that it's a rather quick report. It's just, you have it all there. It's just print, so to speak, and it all just kind of spits out. So it's not technically a lot of staff time because you're inputting this all along throughout the course of time. It's just a matter of printing it out as a moment of time.
Correct. And it's actually the same report that we use when we're double checking our checks. So it's something we already run. So it's the report you already get is something we already use in our processes, so it's not difficult to include.
Okay. Because I was thinking this same line as the Director Huffer was that, because of the securities that we've built into place, that I don't know that I feel the need to see the warrants every board meeting. Now, if there's like I mentioned, if maybe there's quarterly, we have a random selection of something where you just print it out to check, because as the chair said, I too was from the very beginning, kind of looking through these. Well, what is this for? What is this for? But then as you see it repeated month after month, year after year, so it's like, okay, you're seeing the same thing all the time. Except for maybe some, capital project expenses and things that pop up. Otherwise, there's a lot of routine there. So I thought another option would be, well, what's the non-routine things? Maybe there's certain account numbers that you could to review. So, that type of thing where it could be maybe a hybrid, like some of these other agencies are doing. It's not everything every 2 weeks, but maybe there's something else if the board were to decide. But I kind of felt like, yeah, I don't know that I need to see that. I think we have the checkpoints in place. And I don't think I need to see the warrants every single time. Yeah.
Fine. So, I think, is this an item for a future discussion? Or are we making a decision on this?
Well, it's just a discussion item, so I don't think we can make a decision, but
A decision?
I think with the information that I've heard, I would like it to, see a change, because I don't think it's an absolute necessity to have this all the time.
She may want it.
Just a comment.
For her records.
As Melissa said, right now it's just basically pushing a button to print all that out. You're suggesting of, every other month, a random or department probably would require more time and effort
Yeah.
on your massive
Yeah.
staff to accomplish that. So I suspect you're probably better looking at either all or nothing.
Right.
Well, the only question I would have is if we wanted to, if people weren't looking at it, would be a paper issue. We could just have it online and not print it if
Mhm.
it was that, but if
Absolutely.
it's not causing the staff any extra, time or worry, I do look at it. I mean, I may not look at it thoroughly, but I enjoy reading it.
Glance
So.
at different things.
I guess you also have to ask Colleen how many extra minutes or seconds it takes to copy all of those pages.
A lot of my life, Chuck.
Well, I think that this was a discussion item because we weren't really, we weren't sure of any action. We didn't really have a recommendation. We're here for the board and we want to be as open and transparent and give you guys as much as you want, or as, little. Obviously we have to give you the legally minimum, but so I think unless I hear anything like bring back something for a specific change, we keep doing the same thing, but maybe we can, when we go back to our finance and audit committee, I don't think we'd actually meet again until December or something, usually around the audit time. We can kind of bring this up with them again and say, do you guys have any other ideas? And if people have ideas between now and then, you can share them with us and we'll just kind of cover it and see what we're doing. But again, open, transparent, you're always welcome in the offices. And, Melissa, like that stack is usually often pretty accessible, like you can see it. So, I mean, we'd like a little heads up just for workflow, but if someone's like, hey, can I come by and just check out the pile of stuff? It's always there for you guys. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so shall we leave it at that?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna keep things as they are unless we see a need to do something different in the future. And the office is always open and Melissa's open for questions. And thank you very much. I know that took some time for you to do. That was very
Good
informative.
job, Melissa.
Thank you. So, moving on, we're going to look at, 9A, amendment number 2, a memorandum to understanding with the Caneo Disc Golf Club. And I see, is this going to be Mr. Mooney?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Cutsworth, members of the board. Caneo Disc Golf Club is actually one of our younger community partners, but I say young and they've been with us for 12 years. So pretty good community group. back in 2010, we started working with them when they formed a nonprofit and developed Rabbit Flats at Thousand Oaks Community Park. And so we had an MOU back then. Then as Sapwe Trails Community Park was going through the development process and everything, there was a need and interest to develop another course there. And so in 2016, we actually entered into a new MOU, and that was at Rabbit Flats at Thousand Oaks Community Park, as well as Sapwe courses. And then we've actually extended that agreement once through amendment number 1 for 3 years back in 2019. It's a really great community group, lots of volunteer hours, a lot of sweat equity from them. They help take care of their courses, improve their courses, and really great community group, a lot of great effort from them. So, and I know our grounds division and maintenance folks like to work with them because of the help that their volunteers provide for the park facilities that they're at. We're back tonight with amendment number 2, but we are looking to extend them for 5 years for this amendment to it. So all the standard same terms as the original agreement. So it's at both facilities. As the 2016 agreement apply for this. So that's what I have. I'm available for any questions if you have any questions.
Do we have any questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, do I have a recommendation? Yes, Director Lang.
Yes, I'd like to recommend to authorize our general manager to enter into amendment number 2 in a memorandum of understanding with the Caneo Disc Golf Club.
And Director Huffer, do
Second.
you have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So let's move on. I think that you're going to continue on with us here. It looks like this is a fairly extensive report, Mr. Mooney, on our annual master plan update and capital improvement programs.
Thank you, Chair. As part of our annual update, we include Exhibit 1, which is our capital projects for our past fiscal year. So it's an outline of what's been completed, what's pending, and what we aren't looking to complete. So there's 31 projects that were completed. That's all in blue. And then kind of notables, community grant projects. So we had our double matching grant last year. So a lot of great work happened with that. We had multiple playgrounds as well as Rancho Potrero Area 1 improvements. So kind of just a quick highlight of some of the projects that we did complete. We do have one project that will not be completed, and that's in white. It's the vinyl patio enclosure at the community pool at CLU. So that's just a project that we kind of put back on the shelf. It wasn't needed after we kind of reviewed it with staff. And then we do have 18 projects that are in progress and that have been rolled over from fiscal years. So we're currently working on those. Couple notable ones for that is the teen and global center improvements, as well as new Page Lane neighborhood park. But we did nearly complete $11 million expended for the capital projects. And so this sheet will be added to the annual update of our master plan. So it's showing what work is being executed for our update. And then if you look at Exhibit 2, we do have some textual and graph updates to the master plan. We provided a strike-through copy as well as a final complete copy. So a nice clean copy that will be inserted for the update. But basically, we take a look at what new park developments. So Page Lane Neighborhood Park didn't have 14 acres developed. Now we'll have 14 acres developed there, as well as we do some kind of housekeeping items. As you all are aware, we acquired a Rolling Oaks property. So we added that to that planning zone. So we do have, I believe it's 5.5 acres of undeveloped park site there now. And then it's more kind of just housekeeping type items where we do get new information through like GIS systems and things that offer more detail of our acreage of our properties. So we kind of just take the time to go through on an annual basis and clean up our current master plan with these updates. So all of those are provided in there. And there's actually an outline sheet. If you go to page 76, it kind of breaks down exactly what sheets were updated within it. But it's really Page Lane Neighborhood Park, Rolling Oaks acquisition, and then we did have some cleanup with the Caneo Creek district-wide facility because Page Lane was designated as a neighborhood park, not a district-wide park, since it's a neighborhood park now, designated as our 30th neighborhood park, by the way. And but also I forgot about the acquisition of Rancho Potrero Equestrian Center. So that was another district-wide acreage that we updated in this master plan update. So really more just kind of, again, housekeeping, cleaning up things of the progress that we're making throughout the district. So, and with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mooney? I think we're all just completely fascinated with looking over these charts. Mr. Huffer.
Just a quick question. You're only dealing with zones 2 and 4 in the exhibits that you gave us? Because the other zones really
No changes in
don't
those
have any
zones.
changes?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So it's where we've developed or where we found some, lack of better word, errors or updated information where we had to update.
Okay. And then I just, as a comment, I was a little surprised that there was fairly significant deficiency in, you know, the area covered by Sunset Hills and Oakwood Neighborhood Park. We need to park there.
Yeah, and I guess the comment to that, at the very bottom of the spreadsheet, we do have a current project that we're working on, since the city's working on their general plan, looking at where they're using land use, most importantly residents, right? So we serve the residents and our people to park ratio. So we are working with our consultant team right now to be able to kind of dovetail what the city's doing. And so then we will be going back and updating our master plan, not just an annual update, but a more significant update. So that we'll have that at a later date in the future. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so, let me flip back here just a second. Sorry. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the annual update? So moved. Okay, Director Holt, and do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Director Nichols, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion approves. So do we have any questions in item 10A through F? Any questions that anyone has? No comments?
No, I think it's good. Thank you.
Well, if there's no other things, I really liked looking at the Goebel Center. In fact, I spent some time before we're coming here. I pulled this out from last ones and just amazed at the amount, and they have them all listed here, amazed at the amount of things that we offer the community. It's pretty much, I think it would be fairly difficult to not find something for everybody in this community. So I think that's to, you know, congratulate Mrs. Callis and her crew. So it's really quite overwhelming. It's very delightful. All righty, you know, guys, I think I'm getting tired. I'm misplacing things and I don't know where I am. So where's my agenda? Too many late nights. All right, so now we're on department reports. So Parks Division.
Real quick, Page Lane Neighborhood Park is getting closer. We're hopefully a week to 2 weeks away from opening it to the public. And then we do have a ribbon cutting scheduled for October 29th, Saturday at 10 a.m. So we're very, very excited. I was out there with the guys today doing kind of punch list walk stuff. So just kind of minor cleanup items and things like that. But staff's real happy with the work the contractor's doing. From every now and then, I have a neighbor pop by and some good words exchanged, and people are excited about the park development. So that's all I have to share. So I'm available for any questions if you guys have any.
Yes, Director Hopper?
Where do we stand with the teen center?
So Teen Center and Global Center. So we actually are wrapping up the main restroom work at the Global Center this week. We have some minor work that we need to do next week at the restrooms, but we're hoping basically we're about a month away from substantial completion. So and they're chipping away at it. We have a couple of lead time items like shade that's caught up in the manufacturing process. So that's probably our biggest question mark right now. But the goal is in the next month, we'll be substantially complete at both centers.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Mooney? All righty. Moving on, Recreation Division.
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. So, just a couple of things. You guys saw the, rec highlights, lots and lots of things going on. So keep up in touch with Aline with your calendar and make sure you look at that and, check out all the fun things that are happening. We do have a rec van that's going out this weekend to 2 local parks. We are doing a new outreach where we're actually, our marketing team went out and at the surrounding areas of the 2 parks, they put door hangers on actual doors because we were finding that few people were going to the park, but they were hearing about it from social media. So we were really wanting to direct some attention to some of the houses and stuff, which has opened up some really nice conversations, learning that maybe there's not a lot of kids that live in the actual neighborhood, and maybe we need to be focusing on some adults type things that are free and fun in the park. So that's still just an ongoing process, education process of how we're going to use that van and what kind of activities we're going to do out in the parks. Just wanted you to know that the open house grant, it is coming to an end. I think we have 2 more activities that are going on. This is the mini grant where we gave some of our local partners, our partner agencies, $3,000 to help with an open house grant to bring people into their facilities. Beverly talked about it today. And I just wanted to show you like their application. I pulled it up. So what they're using the money for is they are doing actually, we helped them through the grant print a color handout brochures for them, develop a scalable garden map, which she kind of talked about them updating, printing some posters with the maps, just doing some marketing. And then they're going to be having some different little things at the actual open house using the brochures and the walking paths. And they just called the other day, and I believe they're going to be doing some kind of like a beverage cart that they can take to different spots on the trail that they're going to be building. So it's really a cool grant, and it's neat that we were able to do that with so many of them. And we've also been able to participate in a lot of the events. In your packet, you got this. This was the survey from the summer months. So just basically wanted the highlight. We're doing really good still. 9% of the people that we sent the survey to actually responded, which is awesome. But what I wanted to tell you was, so in 2019, we had 5,984 people that it went out to, the survey went out to based off of the number of people that participated in our programs. In 2022, we had 5,847. So basically at this point, I think we can say we are back at pre-pandemic numbers, which is really, really awesome. People are using our facilities. And even with the difficulty hiring staff, our staff out there in the field have done such a great job managing and monitoring the classes, who's in what, and getting staff. They've been really working hard on that. America and I went to a conference in Phoenix recently. We came back, learned a lot of great things, and we're sharing it with our team, and we're going over some of the stuff and how we can implement things. So it was really exciting. And Tom went too, so I haven't seen him. He's on vacation right now, but so it was a really good conference, and it's really great that we're able to go out and do that. So that was really great. And America really enjoyed it too. Rotary Street Fair is October 16th, 9 to 4. We will have a booth in our normal location. If any of you guys would like to volunteer, come out, hang out with staff. We have plenty of staff working this year, so if you don't want to come, you don't have to come, but if you'd like to, you can just shoot me a little email, let me know what time you're thinking of coming, and that way I can let the staff that'll be running it know to expect you. And Caneo Community Center staff will be the ones that are out there. And then we already said, we were very excited about getting the bathrooms back at Global Center. So, and Sarah is very excited that the teen center is soon to be in the inside reopened. So it's gonna be a lot of work for our IT staff, getting everything back up and running in the computer rooms and then with the games and stuff, but they're very excited to be back in the building and super appreciative of all the community centers and the Jan's Marketplace who have helped give the teams locations to be able to continue programming throughout this transitional time. So it's really been a team effort, not only in-house, but also people out in the community for us. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? I just thought of a question actually for Mr. Mooney. How are you advertising the opening for Page Lane? Are you mailing out things to neighbors or?
We did a mailer, unfortunately with the drought, we weren't able to turf the park, right, with natural turf. So we sent a mailer out, I believe it was late August, to our mail group. And it was notifying them about the change of because of the drought, but then also reminding them to contact me if they were interested in learning about any events and when the park opening, again, just a general kind of reach out to them. And so I have an email list that I've had for about 4 years now, from when it was a napkin sketch to now a built park that people been adding. And so that would be emailed out. We would be doing with help with Rochelle's staff, doing some social media, but then also we have signs for the park. So once the park's open to the public, we'll be putting signs out there to let folks know that we're going to do an event out there. So.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Anyone?
I just got a question. When was the last time we opened the new park?
Sapwe Trails. So it was September of 2018
Okay.
was the last time that we opened a brand new park. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. So now management services.
Well, thank you all for letting me explain the mysteries of the finance department today. And I just want to give another shout out to my staff. They do all that work. This is again, 2 weeks of just AP and checks. They also do payroll and they do this for MRCA too. It's a huge amount of work. They do an awesome job and that's all I want to report. So feel free to ask any further questions.
Good.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Any questions for Mrs. Smith? Okay, then that's going to bring us to our general manager.
Yeah, I'm gonna sing her praises too, because as I watched her presentation, which, was her own way of trying to explain it to me, which I hope helped explain it to you and any of the interested public. I kept thinking that this is gonna be a college professor one of these days, because I just thought it was such a great, yeah, I could just see you doing an MPA program or something. That was great. So thank you. Couple quick things. I will be serving on Capri for another 4 years. Apparently no one wants to do, no one wants to do the large district rep, so they don't have to have district vote. So I'm another 4 years in Capri, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I'm learning a lot about insurance too, so that's good. Staff will be taking a field trip to the cricket fields with the cricket reps. It's a field that specifically has an artificial turf field surrounded by a grass turf field that's an overlay for more than just cricket, but is also soccer. I've actually gone out to the cricket fields at Woolsey Park, at Balboa Park and really cool, actually. So if you guys are ever at the 101 and 405 and want to check out the cricket fields there, it's kind of cool to watch. They have like 5 fields there and it's pretty cool. But we're going to see if and how artificial segment within an overall grass turf works or maybe has issues. So we really want to understand what we're looking at there. So that's a field trip that's coming up. And then just because it is election season, just for the first time, I think we have our ballot boxes from Ventura County at Dos Pinos Center, Global Adult Center, and TO Center. So that's, I think this is the first time they're actually being used, right? They installed them over summer, I think. So this is.
What centers? Repeat.
Dos Pinos, Global Adult Center, and TO Center have Ventura County managed, maintained, owned ballot boxes. We have no responsibility but they're just physically on our property. So that's a new thing that we're doing with the county. Other than that, happy birthday, Rochelle. And
Ah.
39.
Back there.
it's actually today.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Rochelle. Happy birthday to you.
And then, and then again, thanks to all the staff for working so hard and Stephanie and Mark for, I don't know, Mark's watching the football game, but for doing all the work they do to keep the meeting going.
What did you all do while we were in there for that meeting?
Thank you. Should we start over here? Director Nichols, would you like to give us your report?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. I stopped by the Thousand Oaks Community Center today. And while I am driving by it multiple times since I live in that neck of the woods, been seeing the progression of the landscaping out front take place. It looks really nice. I actually drove in behind, parked in the parking lot. I go, oh my gosh, they're doing the whole place. And it looks really nice. They have done a great job out there. So be sure and let your team know whichever is in your side of it or other folks doing it. Looks really nice. Has a nice clean look to it. It's like a nice little facelift there. Did a great job with that. And then a couple weeks ago, I was at Tire Man getting my tires rotated and walked across the park like I usually do to Parque de la Paz and just kind of roaming the neighborhood. And one of our staff was there cleaning the restroom. And so I struck up a conversation with him, nice guy, and just thanked him for doing some very difficult work. He says, yeah, I think this is the toughest restroom in the whole park district.
I can imagine.
Yeah, there are
And
always
he
people
just,
standing there. aren't there?
just a smile on his face, chipper guy. And so, wow, we've got some great staff. I mean, probably one of the toughest jobs that we have. And you would have never known. You just was happy to be there, happy to do a job, and just enjoyed working with Park District. So glad to see folks like that up and down the staff. So kudos to all of you for your staff. They do a great job. As far as things that I've been doing since our last meeting, went to the Right On fundraiser. We had a Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center working group meeting, had a Costco board meeting, had the Water Agency's gala, and the Project Home Key groundbreaking. That's my report.
Thank you, Director Holt.
Once I turn that sheet in, I kind of forget. That's last month, right? However, it was a very busy month and most of the events I went to, there were 6 of them. I saw people, there are other board members plus some staff. So it was a busy month and enjoyable. And but I forget I could probably look at yours and look
Sure,
at
yes.
it, but that's
Just-
okay. Anyway, so there's not much else to say.
Okay, thank you, Director Holt.
I would like to ask though, and this is not a report from me, but we had the woman who spoke about situation at the Global Center. And I deal with the Global Center quite a bit. And I was wondering if, and you can tell me later or whatever, maybe how to relate some of the problems there to the top people at the Global Center.
Right.
Yeah,
I just talked
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
Ms.
Rochelle was listening. Yeah.
She's kind of on top
I'm
of it.
aware of the situation and we are
Oh,
working
okay.
with her.
Okay, because I talked to them a lot about different things, so. Okay,
Yeah, Rochelle told me immediately that she knew the situation and they'll
okay.
handle it. We have such a good staff. Okay, Director Huffer.
You know, pretty much the things that Doug mentioned, we had the Costco meeting, the AWA event over at the Reagan. I was just sorry that I didn't get there early to tour the World War II. That's supposed to be a really nice exhibit.
Well, I may not have put that on my chart.
Oh, we had, I dialed in online for the Ventura County Special District Association. So last night or night before last?
No.
Tuesday.
Night before.
Before,
Yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. And I don't know if you didn't get word or what the deal was, that, you know, they had 3 candidates there for the LAFCO. And you weren't able to be there for some reason, but, or you didn't get word about it.
No, I wasn't aware that that was gonna be part of it.
Yeah, which I was, if that was the case, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't get word about it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but my mind is elsewhere. It's in Hawaii, so.
Director Lang.
Yes, I attended the AWA event at Air Force One. Also participated with Director Nichols at the Rancho Potrero ad hoc committee. Attended the Ride On fundraiser. I attended the Shumash Indian Museum in recognition of the National Museum Month. Yesterday had an MRCA meeting and I shared with you via email one of the major items on our agenda, and that was the moving ahead with the Deer Creek acquisition in the Santa Monica Mountains west end. So this is my 3rd meeting in 3 days after coming off of sick leave. That concludes my report.
Thank you. You just keep going, Director Lang. And I thought that was very interesting. So that's right there next to Sycamore Cove. And I always thought that was already owned by
Further
somebody.
west.
It's further west.
Yeah,
Okay,
by Point Magoo State Park.
right. Yeah, right there. I guess, I mean, I've hiked there quite a bit and I've always thought that that was, I didn't know that that was public property. So they,
It is
I mean,
now.
not, I mean, it was private property. So that's interesting to know, that now that is public
And,
property.
and the MRCA will not retain it. We will pass it along to
Yeah.
NPS
Mhm.
or the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Thank you for passing that on to us. So I did most of everything that most of you did. I did go to the Plantapalooza over at the park, and it was very nice. And so they said they're gonna probably continue it next year. They had a lot of representation from, it wasn't just plants, but they had representation from a lot of different, people, as Elaine talked about. So that was an excellent use of our park. And I also did something, McCray Ranch had Larry Jams there talking. And I had heard Larry Jams talk at the Global Center before, but I thought, well, I'll go down and hear what he's saying at McCray. He changes it a little bit. If none of you have ever heard Larry speak about kind of his growing up in the Canal Valley, it's very entertaining. And he'll probably continue on. He's a bit of a character.
A
his-
bit of a
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, and he changed up his slideshow. I mean, I think I saw it pre-COVID, so I might have just forgotten something, but I'll just pass something on that I thought was very interesting that I didn't know, and I don't think Wyatt knew either. So, Joe McCray, before he met Francis D., he dated Larry's aunt, Patricia Jams. And he even brought pictures of them together, you know, in different, situations, but, ended up that they didn't get married. And, you know, he married Frances D and had a wonderful life. But, I thought it was very, I won't go into a lot of the details that he said. But if you ever do, have a chance, I think he's gonna still be around talking. He seems to like it, and it was really very interesting, so. Do we have any status reports and items for subsequent agendas? Any items from the public? No, we already had our closed session, a very long closed session.
Yes.
And so I think we're done, correct? I adjourn this meeting.